If you ask most Americans what number they need to retire comfortably, they'll say $1 million. It's become the cultural finish line. But here's the uncomfortable truth. For most retirees, everything does not suddenly change at $1 million. For many households, the real turning point happens earlier, around $750,000 saved. Below that level, small mistakes can permanently derail retirement. Above that level, your money starts behaving differently, not magically, not risk-free, but differently enough that the entire strategy must change. And if you're between 55 and 70, already retired, or planning to retire soon, this threshold matters more than almost any headline you see about markets or interest rates. Because crossing it late, or never crossing it at all, can mean the difference between a retirement where you control your time and one where you are forced to cut back, worry constantly, or even go back to work in your 70s. In this video, I'm going to explain why $750,000 becomes a functional tipping point for many retirees, what mathematically changes once you reach it, the 3 big shifts that need to happen in how you handle your money, and 2 real-life examples, one retiree who stayed below this level and struggled, and one couple who crossed it and gained control. I'll also walk you through practical steps you can take, whether you're far below $750,000, approaching it, or already above it. And here's the twist. Most people think the big change happens at $1 million. For many retirees, the real change happens earlier, and most never realize it. On this channel, we break down real retirement thresholds that quietly determine whether you struggle or stay comfortable. Subscribe to Michael on Money so you don't learn these lessons too late. Let's define what we mean by this $750,000 turning point. It is not a magic number. It is not a guarantee of success, and it does not mean you can suddenly spend freely. What it represents is a mathematical crossover point where your portfolio can realistically begin generating meaningful, repeatable income without requiring extreme risk or extreme frugality. Below this level, returns don't move the needle much. A good market year feels nice, but it doesn't materially change your lifestyle. Above this level, returns, withdrawal rates, taxes, and timing suddenly start to matter a lot. At this stage, you are no longer just accumulating. You are transitioning into income production and capital preservation. That is a completely different game. Think of it this way. When you are working and saving, your focus is on how much you can add each year. When you are retired or near retirement, the focus flips. The question becomes, how much can my money safely produce without running out? That question only becomes meaningful once the base is large enough to generate real income. Let's ground this with data. Research from multiple retirement studies shows that a long-term sustainable withdrawal rate for most retirees today is somewhere between 3% and 4%, depending on asset allocation, flexibility, and time horizon. Using simple math, $750,000 multiplied by 4% equals about $30,000 per year. At 3.5%, it's about $26,250 per year. Now layer in Social Security. The average retired worker benefit today is roughly $1,800 to $2,000 per month, or about $22,000 to $24,000 per year. For a married couple, combined benefits often fall somewhere between $30,000 and $45,000 per year, depending on work history and claiming age. Put those together, a household with $750,000 saved and 2 Social Security checks could realistically be looking at $60,000 to $70,000 per year of gross income, much of it inflation-adjusted and lifelong. That does not make you wealthy, but it does move you out of survival mode and into sustainability mode. Longevity matters here. Roughly half of people who reach 65 will live past 85. About 1 in 3 will reach 90. That means your retirement is not a short bridge. It is a multi-decade phase of life. At lower portfolio levels, inflation and bad market sequences can destroy sustainability. Around $750,000, you gain margin, not immunity, margin. Now, let's talk about the first major shift that happens around this level: income possibility changes. Below $500,000, withdrawals are fragile. A 4% from $400,000 is $16,000 per year. That is not enough to meaningfully support most households, even when combined with Social Security. People in this range often end up withdrawing closer to 6 or 7% just to survive. That dramatically raises the risk of running out of money. Around $750,000, something changes. You can begin to rely on your portfolio for a meaningful share of your income without pulling unsustainably high percentages. That allows you to stop viewing your savings as an emergency pile and start viewing it as an income engine. This shift also changes behavior. When income becomes more predictable, stress declines. When stress declines, people make better decisions. They stop panic selling in downturns. They stop chasing risky investments. They stop overreacting to headlines. That psychological shift alone is powerful. The second shift is risk tolerance. Before $750,000, growth dominates thinking. People feel pressure to catch up. They lean toward aggressive allocations because they believe they need big returns. The problem is that big losses hurt far more than big gains when you are close to or in retirement. Once you reach this threshold, the priority changes from maximizing growth to preventing catastrophic loss. This is where sequence of returns risk becomes central. Sequence of returns risk simply means that a bad market early in retirement can permanently damage your plan, even if long-term average returns look fine on paper. At $750,000, protecting the base becomes more important than squeezing out an extra 1% of return. Asset allocation becomes more balanced. Cash reserves matter. Income-producing assets matter. You start building shock absorbers into the plan. The third shift is tax strategy. Below this level, taxes feel secondary. Above it, taxes quietly become one of the biggest threats to your lifetime income. Traditional IRAs, 401ks, Roth accounts, and taxable brokerage accounts are taxed very differently. Required minimum distributions begin in your 70s and can push you into higher brackets. Higher income can also increase Medicare premiums through IRMA surcharges. Poor tax coordination can easily cost tens of thousands of dollars over retirement. Once you approach $750,000, tax planning is no longer optional. It becomes a core pillar of sustainability. Now let me show you what staying below this threshold can look like. Meet Gary. Gary retired at 62 with about $420,000 saved. He claimed Social Security early, receiving about $1,600 per month. He planned to withdraw roughly $25,000 per year from his portfolio to supplement that income. That put his withdrawal rate close to 6%. It worked fine at first. Markets were strong. Then came a downturn. His portfolio dropped. But his withdrawals stayed the same because his bills didn't change. Within 5 years, Gary's balance had fallen below $300,000. At that point, fear set in. He cut spending. He postponed dental work. He stopped traveling. He worried constantly about running out. By 70, Gary was working part-time again, not because he wanted to, but because he had to. His biggest regret was not one bad investment. It was retiring with too little margin. Now meet Linda and Mark. They retired in their mid-60s with about $800,000 saved. Mark delayed Social Security until 70. Linda claimed earlier. Their combined Social Security eventually reached about $4,000 per month. They withdrew about $28,000 per year from their portfolio, roughly 3.5%. They also kept 2 years of expenses in safe reserves. When markets dropped, they reduced withdrawals slightly and used cash. They never sold in panic. They slept at night. Mark passed away at 78. Linda lost one Social Security check but kept the larger one. Her portfolio was still above $700,000. She continues withdrawing conservatively. She has choices. Same country, Same system, completely different retirement experience. So how do you either reach $750,000 or use it properly once you're near it? Step 1. Get brutally honest about your numbers. Know your total investable assets, not your home value, not your car, investable accounts. Know your expected Social Security benefits. Know your basic annual spending. Guessing is not a plan. Step 2. Align savings and asset allocation with your timeline. If you are more than 10 years from retirement, growth still matters, but it must be disciplined. Low-cost, diversified investing beats chasing returns. If you are within 10 years or already retired, begin shifting toward balance. Build cash reserves. Reduce concentration risk. The goal is not excitement. The goal is durability. Step 3. Build an income plan before you retire. Decide in advance which accounts you will draw from, in what order, and under what conditions you will adjust spending. Run scenarios. Use free retirement calculators. Better yet, work with a fee-only fiduciary who specializes in retirement income planning. Ask them specifically about withdrawal strategy, tax efficiency, and sequence risk. If they can't explain those in plain English, find someone else. Here is the final warning. $750,000 does not guarantee a successful retirement, and having less than that does not doom you. But behavior must change as your balance grows. Treating a large portfolio like a lottery ticket leads to disaster. Treating it like a fragile income machine leads to sustainability. Small decisions repeated over decades create massive differences in retirement outcomes. The earlier you understand this threshold, the more control you gain. So let me ask you, are you below $750,000, around it, or above it? Comment below with one of those three.